Hey everybody, welcome. It's Roots to Wellness podcast, and I'm your host, Raya Karen. I'm coming at you from the beautiful Burns Lake, British Columbia, Canada, and I love this space where I get to talk to many amazing souls out there and also share different things just on my own. I am an intuitive healer, a coach, a guide, a mom of two beautiful daughters, a nature witch, a lover of all things spiritual and intuition. And the space here to chat with you is something that is very near and dear to my heart aside from my work. I'm also a retreat facilitator, a speaker, a published author, and many other beautiful things in this world. Right now, I'm just here to share beautiful conversations and amazing different topics in this space. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Computer. There we go. It is interesting, the journey. So I'll just play a little. So I'm really excited. I have Pamela Robins from beautiful California here with me today, and I'm not sure I will do her justice by introducing the way that I've learned so many great things about her. And synchronicity has just brought us together. Divine timing, I get goosebumps. And we go right back to just our connection with animals, nature, all these great things. So the founder of Two Spirits Healing, this beautiful teepee where she does sound healing, meditation with animals, in nature with the wild animals and the domestic animals, as I have seen. This has been some of her deepest work, and I think also brought her through lots of different chapters of her life and helped her to do some deep work and deep healing as well from many different pieces of life. I also saw that there was the horse worship clothing line, which goes right back to 2010. Goes back to the roots of me growing up as a horse girl on a farm and raised in British Columbia, Canada here. So, and so your relationship with the animals and tuxedo and the horses, all the things really speaks to my heart. And I know that you have a book out too, Meditating with Animals, which is available, and just a lovely little piece for people to place for them to land and tools to use. I saw also noticed that you do so many great things. So you're working on the land. You're also working with different companies and agencies, working even in different universities, working with neurodiverse population as far as Down syndrome, with some great work and sound healing, which I wanted to dive into actually. So that's just some pieces that I have found, and I would love for you to share anything I may have forgotten or anything else that you would like to just add to our conversation as to how you have evolved to where you are today and doing your beautiful, amazing work.
Thank you. Well, that was actually really good. You've got me pretty well covered. But, I think it's important to share or to elaborate a little bit on what you said about what brought me to this work in the first place. I mean, a lot of times we don't come to this work because we've chosen it. It chooses us.
Yes.
And that was very much what happened to, for me. I think that from a very young age, I was aware that I had a lot of intuitive gifts and really special connection with energy. I remember specifically looking out my bedroom window one day at this tree that was across the street. And the tree said to me that it explained energy, how it works, that nothing ever dies, that things live on, and the gifts that people give you live within you. And then you share that energy as part of your energy with the world. And that's how it works. And I thought, did that tree just like, where did that come from? And I think that was really like my first download, if you will, of information from somewhere that I didn't really understand. And what was so beautiful about that experience was I was so young, but I was aware of what had happened. And I never told anybody about, not my parents, not friends, or anything about these things that would happen. I had a lot of dreams that I would start. It happened so often that I would play a game, and it was like every 3 days in advance. Like I would have a dream, and then it would be like 3 days in advance that thing would happen in real time. And so I was just always like working, playing, enjoying having that connection. And I just think that the most beautiful part of that was that it was never spoiled by anyone else's thoughts or opinions, because I just enjoyed it and I knew that it was unique to my experience. And I think had I shared it, it probably would have not been received in the way that would have cultivated more of that or supported it, because I didn't come from a line of healers or people who did this kind of work, right? So I'm so grateful for that knowledge, that I kept this gift to myself. And as I went about life, was always into horses and animals and all the things, sitting in trees and reading my books. And but I got into the nightclub and hotel business when I got married, and that took me to Mexico for 10 years. And it was a wild adventure, but I was not living my authentic life, and it was highly stressful. And I just felt the rising up in me, day after day after day, like this is not my life. There was a lot of things that happened there with drug cartels and with, just nefarious things that really made it clear that this was not in alignment with who I was. It was fun for about a year until we got successful, and then all eyes were on us. And so, yeah, it actually became very dangerous. And so we moved back to the States. I was married at the time, and after that, that's when I started horse worship. I started riding horses as a form of like actual therapy. I had PTSD when I got back from Mexico and landed in the States. And then my now ex-husband at the time, he wanted to get involved in more hotels and a restaurant near where we live. And I just could feel that was not what I was supposed to be doing, but I didn't know what else to do. I was married and I thought, this is, I'm supporting this, and, this is what we're doing. Even though I voiced my opinion and said I didn't think it was the healthiest thing for us, for our marriage, for moving forward. But it happened anyway. And I would say within 2 years, I found out that I had thyroid cancer. And what I found out, I was actually at my mother's funeral. She had passed away from after a 12-year battle of breast cancer, which turned into bone cancer. And I was going through a biopsy and getting all the tests done. And I never told her. I was flying back and forth to New Jersey from California to see her. And I was like, I don't want to burden her with what I'm going through. And so it was hard not to tell her, because she begged me. The last time I saw her, she begged me to stay. And I couldn't. I had to go home and have the biopsy. I had pushed it off twice already. And I told her I'd be back within 10 days. And she went into a coma, and I never, got to see her alive again. And while I was at her funeral, that's when I got the call from my doctor that I had thyroid cancer. So that was kind of a 1-2 punch, if you will. I went home and did all the arranging of the surgery and everything. And in the meantime, my partner, my husband, I found that he was cheating on me. And This was
Oh,
right after I had the cancer surgery. Like literally the stitches in my throat were still fresh. And I found out this information. And I believe that was divinely guided. 100%, it was another download to go look at something. And I just completely followed what it told me to do. I saw what I needed to see. And at that point in time, we had been through many rounds of this. And I was like, I deserve more in life than and I have some hard choices to make. And I actually got down on the floor in child's pose and said to myself, like, you cannot get up off this floor until you resolve that, to have self-respect and to take care of yourself in a way that you never have before. And I don't know how long I was down there, but I was probably there for a while.
yeah.
And when I rose up, man, I was like this rooted tree, like just coming out of the ground, and like it was done. So I got out of that. I rented a house. I walked away from our 3 businesses. We had 2 hotels and a restaurant. And I handed the keys back to him. And I was like, I'm willing to walk away from my dream home, this beautiful 2-acre, home with the pool, the whole, I didn't want any of it anymore. And I didn't care. And he was like, we're going to go bankrupt. And da-da-da. I said, I just literally don't care anymore. I want my health, and I need my peace of mind. Like I need my mental health. I need my physical health, emotional, spiritual. And I am not in alignment when I'm with you, and that has to end. And it did end. So I got divorced, and it did set off a long period of time with financial struggle. But I will tell you, I would not be doing anything that I am doing today had I stayed in that marriage. So I'm cancer free now. It's been 10 years. Wow. And after I left, I wrote the book Meditating with Animals. And that actually came through me again, a channeled book, because I don't have a linear mind. So I knew there was like a very slim chance that I was going to be writing a book in this lifetime. So thankfully the animals got busy, and they're like, you're going to write this book. So the book really came from my cats coming to be with me while I was going through radioactive iodine. And they laid on me, and I literally was in and out of this deep meditative state. And I could see the cells from their bodies going into my body, like literal healing. And I've never done acid. I've never done ayahuasca, like none of it. But I know that what people have shared about that, I felt like it was that deep of a meditative experience, that I witnessed something that was so real. And I thought to myself, when I'm strong again, I want to be able to return this energy to them so that they don't get depleted and sick. And so this book of these really sweet meditations from the animals, of like how to more deeply connect with them and have this reciprocal energy came through. And I self-published it. And I have to say, this year it's actually being published. It was picked up by a publishing house and an editor who is now rewriting some of the chapters a little bit to make it more of a teaching memoir. So super happy about that.
How exciting.
I think it'll go out into the world and have a bigger reach. But I started doing yoga, meditation, things to heal myself. And I had a horse at the time. I had him for 15 years. And he was at this beautiful ranch. It's where he lived. And my friend owned it. It's 53 acres. And I got this download that I was going to have this teepee. And by that point, I was so emptied out of my old life. And this new life was waiting to come in. And I just was like, say yes to whatever comes through. So I was like, okay, I'll get a teepee.
Sure.
And I did. And then I was like, okay, please show me now what I'm supposed to do with this. And the message was to just share all of the gifts that I had access to. And it wasn't that I was there necessarily as a teacher or someone who had all the answers. It was for me to keep going to the land, for me to keep connecting with the animals, for me to share all my gifts of healing and my story, and to allow other people to share their stories and do it with sound healing. And I love to write, so guided meditations, and we connect with animals and the earth and the sky. And I take people to meet the ranch animals, and then I do sound healing. And so I just I call it, it's House of Two Spirits.
Yeah.
And it's just transformational healing journeys in nature. And I truly couldn't think of anything, more lovely to do in life than to allow people to turn off their phones and connect with each other, to be seen, to be heard, and to just regulate the nervous system through the simplest of things. So, I've been doing that since 2018. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
What I mean, goosebumps, tears, like all the things. It's just, what an incredible path, and that you have just trusted and allowed, and just, some of the best things happen by chance, and you just allowed the doors to open. Without realizing it, you planted all these beautiful seeds, and the animals as healers are incredible. I have also many experiences with that. Even if I'm gone for a few days, I come home, I've got my Bernese mountain dog on me, and she's in my face like, Mom, I've missed you. And my cat's laying over here on my heart, and my, other big dog is beside me, and the little one at my feet. And it's just, they just surround you. Like you said, it's something, unless you've experienced it, it's hard to actually put to words, because it's such an energetic exchange of energy, and they're so present, and they're so in the moment with us in that way. I think is such a beautiful sensory experience. They have no expectation other than so much love and so much nurturing to give us. And when we slow down long enough to receive that, I think the transformation and the exchange is just so beautiful, like you've described with your cats. And I know your journey a little bit with your horse as well. I followed that as much as I could, and it also goes very deep into my heart. I moved away from having horses really forefront in my life. I was very much into the competitiveness and all the things that I did there. Grew up with that. My favorite was just the big draft horses, and just being with them, being with the goats, being with the animals. We have an 800-acre ranch here, and the mountains and the water and the wild animals, the butterflies, all the things, right? And I think right from when I was born, I was so grounded into nature, and it was just my space. And I found myself as an adult going back to that. And it's not that I haven't always been in nature and with animals, but sometimes we find ourselves, I don't know if you see that with people you're working with, but connecting back to their roots, back to those places that did give them calm and peace and ease. So there's just so many things in what you shared, and I want to share it all. But what are some of the biggest things you're noticing when people are coming and they're having this beautiful experience with the animals, and then the guided meditation and the sound? Like what are they going away with as their biggest gift in that?
Well, particularly, first of all, like, thank you for sharing that. And I think that one of the things that I do not take for granted is having access to what, you and I described having access to, because a lot of people don't have that. And so it truly is an incredibly powerful and important gift to share that with people. And I think what they take away the most, like let's just say it's one of the events that I do where I have them, I'll read from my book a little bit, I'll drop them into, take them out of, like, it's not a petting zoo experience. I mean, it is to some extent, but it's also more, I try to bring a deeper meaning into it where they can drop in and have like a deeper exchange with the animals, like a spiritual experience with them. And what I see that is so, so beautiful is this childlike, laughter and innocence that immediately, like at the sight of them, before they even interact with them, it's already, it's like this.
Yes.
And we have baby pigs. We've got a girl goat gang. We've got mini donkeys. And horses for them to interact with. And each one of those experiences is wildly different. And so after we're done, with the animals, we'll go back and I do the sound healing afterwards, because that allows them time to integrate their experience and really seal in the joy and happiness, a moment. And sometimes there's tears. One of the mini donkeys, there's George Strait and Hank Williams. They used to work for a petting zoo. And so this woman, I guess the petting zoo closed, and this woman took these donkeys in. And so now they're at the ranch. And I didn't know their background. And so they're right next to the goats. So I would bring people up and we would go to see the pig and the horses and the goats. And I wanted to be respectful of someone else's animals. And so I was like, you can pet them, but we can't, I didn't want to go into their stall, where they were. And so one day I was talking with the owner of the ranch and I said, what's the deal with the donkeys? Because every time we go up there, they're like at attention. They're standing at the fence. They got their heads through. They're like, what are you doing? And it turns out, they worked for this petting zoo. And I said, well, could we go in there and pet them then? And she asked the woman who owns them, she was like, absolutely. So we started going in there, and immediately I noticed that if we dropped down onto the ground, like I just did that on my own one day, I just kind of kneeled down, and one of them came over and he hugged me with his whole body. Like he moved his whole body into mine. He put his head over my shoulder and tucked himself in. And or he will put his head into my lap and just sit there. And I have seen people just burst out into tears. I myself have. To receive such a clear and non-judgmental act of love from another being is so powerful. Sometimes you just don't have words for those things. It's just love. So I've seen everything from the joy to the tears and all of it. We go back and we have the sound healing, and people leave feeling like exalted. They're walking on air. My experiences are about 2 hours. The animals are about 2.5 hours. So that's a good amount of time to be out in nature and doing that and really being able to get something tangible from it. So if you have an emotional experience with the animals, you have time to go integrate it back in the sound healing. And that's what I really love about how this is set up. And I have to say, like, the energy of the land is what showed me how to do things. So I work in co-creation with the energy of the land for, the circle, what I say, how I do it. It's all come through me. So it's very much like I step into that role, that I'm a channel of energy, a channel of information. So whether it's, what I say, what I do, how I do it, it's all a dance with the unseen. And that is that's what keeps me going back.
Wow. And I love that. And I feel like, and I think that's where I really feel that deep connection with what you do. And is because I'm very much the same without even knowing it. I've just been allowing and allowing and just letting it come through me and, just being guided. And I think that also, for the people who come to us for the work that we do, it's so powerful that they see that vulnerability, that authenticity, that rawness, that we're not trying to be something we're not. We're exactly who we are here to be, and we are going through the process with such just such uh realness and rawness. It's very interesting, and tuning into the elements of nature, listening to where you're at, and just as you were talking, there was a little squirrel. He was playing on the table and up and behind, and he's gone now. But just those little things. It's like, hey, I'm curious, what are you guys doing? And it's funny because I have the lovely ADHD brain, so my brain is, I always say I have lots of squirrels in it, so it's funny that he visited. So it's fascinating too. And I think that, some of the greatest teachers are things that, we don't realize, like that tree for you, showing you something, all of nature, the crows, which I know you speak of, quite a bit as well, the foxes, like all the animals that are coming to visit, the donkeys, they come to us because they know we need something, but we also have something in exchange for them, but they don't have to ask, and it's this beautiful exchange. And I think when people land in your spaces and where you're working, that's what they're seeking without even know they're seeking it, you know? And it's just this place to land and be held and be nurtured and be understood in a unspoken way. And like I see that in my work, and I see through the things that you're doing and the things that you're sharing as well. And I think that's one of the most beautiful gifts that we can receive and also give, as a healer, as a mentor, as a human being having this beautiful human experience.
Yeah, and I think one of to what you're saying, I think of sound healing
Mm,
because I love that the sound. I do write, and so I like to write different guided meditations to take people on journeys, whether it's to
mhm.
meet spirit animal or to connect with the heart of the earth and a soulmate star in the sky.
Yeah.
Um, but also, I love sound healing
Yes.
because it allows me to freely work with energy in the way that I'm most comfortable.
Mhm.
So I can let all my things kind of simultaneously happen at once. The connection with the unseen, energy work, Reiki,
Mhm.
that compassion and empathy, intuiting what people need. And
Yeah.
it's just this beautiful dance. And without the words and all energy, it's gentle, but it's powerful.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah, and so I love the combination of things. And I did want to add, one of my most powerful now unseen allies is my horse Tuxedo. As I
Mhm.
said, he was with me for almost 15 years.
Yeah.
He was the love of my life, and he actually died in an accident on the ranch, in the stall that the mini donkeys are in now, by the way. And it was one of the most traumatic events of my life because I was with him in his last moments. He was healthy and he was happy. We don't really know what happened exactly. And as you know, with horses, things happen and we don't always have the answers. But I lost something immense when he left.
Yeah.
And I also gained something
Mhm.
immense when he left.
Yeah.
And part of that was myself, because I think I hid behind him for a really long time. I had a lot of trauma in my life, growing up and throughout my adult life. And I think having him kept me as this little girl, and I felt safe with him,
Yeah.
and I could hide behind him almost. And when he left, it was like I was just completely exposed.
Yeah.
And I felt, unsupported. And I was like, yeah, that's where the work is. This is
In
your
the
work.
darkness. In the darkness, right? In that deepness.
Yeah, I mean, I almost didn't make it out of that one. There was a lot there. But what I realized was that he wanted me to go back to that ranch. He wanted me to go there to meet his energy, and that he works with me there.
Yeah.
And so when his stall stayed empty for quite a while, and when the donkeys moved in, he and I had a good laugh, because he actually hated donkeys and he hated me. Like, so it was like, it's a kind of a joke, between us, that now there's donkeys in his stall, and that I, I go in there, and the first interaction that I had by myself with those donkeys was I got down on the ground, and that donkey hugged me, and it was Tuxedo's energy coming through and saying, it's okay to be here. And you're okay to be here. And every time I bring people up there to be in that stall, another little part of me is brave, and another little part of me heals, and another little part of me knows that it's all part of the path. And so I am healing alongside everyone else. They may not know
Yeah.
all of those little intricacies, but it's it's a lot. And it's
Yeah.
really, and that is life, is that we just continue to say yes to the things that are uncomfortable and challenging, and that ask us to be brave and show us that we're braver and more courageous than we could ever imagine. And it's for us, all of it.
Yeah. Oh, so powerful. And I was diving in a little bit to the depths of that darkness and that place. And I feel like I've been there too in the last couple of years with losing my father, who's up there behind me. It's a darkness and a deepness I feel that we were meant to experience in order for us to understand what that place is, what it feels like, what it looks like, so that when people come into our space for healing and nurturing, there's this unspoken understanding of what that place is, and that it's okay to be in that place, and you will come out of that place, but you have to, like, being able to honor that part of the journey, because it isn't always all laughs and giggles and beautiful things, but through these times comes more, like you said, more beautiful pieces and healing, and your horse is working with you, my dad is working beside me, so it's trusting that process too, and allowing them in a new way, to go alongside us, and to give us that little shove and that little push, like, you can keep doing this, and you've got this. This is your time, this is your space, and I'm going to work from over here if that's okay. And I think we're finding that, I think, more and more, as I am anyways, as working with people that kind of come into my space, is that they're seeking someone who has had some of these experiences, for real and raw, and they want to, whether they've got anxiety, depression, PTSD, severe traumas, which you've spoken of, all of these things, and and loss and grief I'm finding is becoming more and more the norm to speak of, because it is a powerful, life-changing experience to go through the depths of grief.
And we're all going to experience it.
Yes. And so how do we walk with each other, nurturing one another as we go through that and normalizing those pieces? And I think by sound, like you said, the sound just takes you to a completely different realm and space within, and you're able to just, you do this all intuitively, which is so beautifully done. And um yeah, it's just, I know that you were also speaking of birds, and you've got your crows, but you've got the other birds singing and in nature, and how calming they are for the nervous system. So you've got all these little pieces that you can just kind of weave in intuitively as it comes to you. Oh, there's a bird on your deck now too. Under your chair.
Yeah.
Oh, anyways, so
And that's how they work. When I'm at the ranch, I was doing a lot of the meditations inside the teepee, and then we had COVID, so I moved it outside
yeah.
teepee. And what happened was that the crows would fly overhead. Crows recognize faces, and they're very interactive. And I think a lot of the birds, like obviously they feel the vibrations from the sound, so they'll sit around and they'll sing. You'll hear the wind through the feathers of the crows as they fly over the circle. And oftentimes, like more in the spring and the summer, we have the coyotes like howling in the background. At the most interesting time too, like it's all so, like you said, woven and divine. And none of that stuff you can plan. None of that stuff I even thought about when I set out to do any of this. And it adds to this richness, and it helps us to remember, the wild that lives inside of us. And that's so important because we're so constrained by, life and the obligations that we have, and to remember that is not how we were meant to be, but this is how we were meant to be. And so if we can tap into that and then allow that energy to live and breathe inside of us, then we can remember parts of who we are. And I think that is what gives us power and strength. And this connect, like you said, the connections, and if it's a father, a mother, an aunt, an uncle, a grandfather, an animal who's passed on, it gives us an opportunity to really connect in with who's around us, supporting us. So that's why I love all of this, because it's for everyone. And my cat approves.
Yeah, mine's been meowing outside the door, like, let me in the office, please. I want to be in on this. It's like, no. And the other thing that I've noticed too is I mean, there's always shifts and changes and great things, and as we open doors, others open for us. And you have these beautiful creations of your beautiful bundles that you make, and your different sprays and things, and that came about with a big pivot too, didn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, COVID.
Yeah.
It basically shut down everything that I was doing. And I've had other creative lines that I've produced and sold around the world. I mean, that's a very big part of my life, is product development. And when everything got quiet, I just started making things. And I wasn't doing it for any reason other than like I needed something to do. And then I started to have people come to my house for, smaller meditation gatherings outside. And, I put some things out, and they just kept selling. And so, yeah, I started making more of them. And there are sage bundles with I soul source the crystals. And that's a whole other story about how that even happened. Again, all the divine things that like lined up, that just took me to all the places I need to go to find all the things that I needed to find, and the woman who said this, and and it all came together, and I get to create art that's healing, and it's gone out all over the world once again. And like, what an honor to have things that you made with source energy be attractive enough to someone for them to want to have it in their home. Like I think that's so incredibly beautiful, and probably one of the things that touches my life about all of this is to have people come and like want to be with me and want to share in, you know, my energy, whether it's a product or if it's a meditation group or my book, or my astrology sessions or whatever it is. I mean, I'm blessed. And I think that every single thing that has happened has led me to where I am today. And it's just one thing I say over and over again and remind myself sometimes is that like life happens for us, not to
Yeah,
us.
absolutely. Absolutely. I know too, you know, your work fills your soul very, very much. And, you know, we're always working on the mind, the body, and the soul. And I also know that taking care of your body is also extremely important because of the journey you've been on to, you know, with the cancer and being, you know, all of the stress and all the other things that you've had happen. That has become really, really important. And what is that piece? I know you know, setting time aside very specifically for, you know, the gym and being, you know, movement for your body and nurturing it in such a delicate way, because this is the beautiful vessel that you do this work with. You know, what does that really bring for you, and how did, you know, that kind of come about to be a really integral part of your life?
That's a great question. And honestly, I have always been active, you know,
Mhm.
since I was very young. I was ballet, tap, jazz,
Yeah.
competed in gymnastics all throughout high school, played basketball in high school,
Yeah.
um, and went to the gym, you know, starting in college.
Mhm.
So I've always intuitively loved movement. And I always loved that it made me feel strong
Mhm.
and that I could do things with my body that were really cool.
Mhm.
And, you know, as I got older, and even in the last few years, I have just found that it's so important to move, keep the energy moving through you so that you're not holding on to, stuck energy and to other people's energy and the situations that happen in life. So when I go to the gym, it's a conscious exercise mentally as well
Mhm.
of, you know, if I'm doing my steps on the treadmill, I try to walk 8 to 10,000 steps, you know, at least a couple times a week, if not more. That keeps my weight down. That, you know, EMDR was discovered, the woman who discovered EMDR discovered so by walking. It's a bilateral movement. There's a lot of healing that happens when you're just walking, and so walking is huge for me.
Mhm.
As I'm doing it, I'm breathing. I'm using it intentionally,
Mhm.
and I'll shut my phone off. Like that's my time. If I go lift weights, you know, I'm doing it intentionally. Sometimes, you know, I'll do an extra, you know, an extra push or, you know, or something, and I will think of something and I will move it through me. So I use my workouts in a way that's different than I did before. And it's never as punishment. It's never because I need to look a certain way or whatever. That's lovely that, you know, I'm fit and, you know, it feels good to be in my body this way for me. But I'm doing it with love and with intention, and it's empowering.
Yeah.
And so, you know, then that leads into the nutrition piece, you
Yeah.
know, which is, I was never a super food motivated person. And for some reason, when I got thyroid cancer, I don't know, I just kind of, I don't know if it was the radioactive iodine, I just kind of lost my, like maybe my taste, you know, for food. Or but over the last year, I have consciously worked on eating more and changing the way that I think and act with regard to food. And it's been incredible. So like we can keep learning like new things and keep engaged in this
Yeah.
process. And then meditation, you know, so I like a 360 wellness approach
Yeah.
for myself. And that's kind of what um, and I know that what I do isn't what everyone's going to do, but I will carve out time. Like I don't even have to. my body just knows it's going to the gym. And I don't have to have the greatest workout ever. Sometimes if I just go and walk, I've gone and walked.
Yeah.
And I'm like, good for you, like
Yeah.
I'm so happy you did, good for you. And other days, like I go and it's like I'm training for the Olympics. I'm like, good for you, same thing. So
Yeah.
but it makes me feel like I'm living it helps me stay in balance. It helps me keep my emotions in check. It helps me because I'm consciously releasing thoughts and energy. Because life is a lot. And I can't, for me, think of better ways to do that than that. I look at meditation as, if I do a 5-minute meditation in the middle of the day, I'm pressing the reset button. If I go to the gym for an hour, I'm pressing the reset button. If I make a beautiful meal for myself and I'm caring for myself, I press that reset button. Those are all opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's beautiful. And I find it changes as we change too, right? Like it kind of evolves with us as we grow and we change in our lives. And it's beautiful, the 360. And I love that because I think that, that's all parts of us, that's all pieces of us that we're nurturing, not just by doing the work that we do, but by doing our own piece on the other side. And I notice with people that are coming to my retreats or coming into my healing space, they don't know how to press pause, how to disconnect, how to do these things. And because the world has led us in just different directions, right? So practicing pause, pushing that reset button, honoring where we're at, and all of these are beautiful gifts that we can give ourselves. Like you said, wow, you did this today. And realizing, whether it's a 15-minute nap, it's a half an hour walk, it's a yoga session, it's a meditation, it's bare feet on the ground for an hour. It's such a gift, and we don't realize how important it is for us to have those beautiful gifts.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, because I love your just your vision of what that is. And I think that will be really inspirational for people who are seeking to find some more balance in their
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah. And I think that, like you said, those are things that I think are, if you're, I guess what I want to say about this is that it's the lifestyle that I live. I would say, like, I call it a meditation lifestyle,
Mhm.
because I've gotten to this place where if I'm going to lead that work, then I have to lead me. But I love all of these things and they come naturally to me. So that's when I know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing, because it's coming from a place other than me, mentally thinking like I have to do this and this and this and this. It's like, no, like I want to feel a certain way,
Yeah.
walk on this earth and interact with people and be the best version of myself that I can be. And believe me, I'm human just like everybody else, right?
Mhm.
But I think when you have access to tools that are just right there for you to tap into, and any number of these things that we've talked about, you really, then people can see and experience, when they experience you and they
Mhm.
come and see you, you're not selling anyone about how to live their life. You're just sharing what you do
Yeah.
that makes you feel good and balanced and grounded. And if they want to try some of those things to help themselves because they see something in you, then that's really beautiful.
Mhm.
You know?
The beautiful part of the work that we get to do, right? And I think that's the part of the journey I love, is just showing up so vulnerably, and those who come into that space feel that, and they see that, and they want to learn more, they want to be able to have their own experience, but often they're just not quite sure, like how to do that. And even if it's just you holding space and nurturing and loving them unconditionally, it's quite amazing to witness that, and in our the work that we do. um So I'm just thinking there's so many things that I still would love to share and love to chat about. But um, I also want to, like, if there's something that you could really share with anyone who is, interested in animals and nature and sound and the combination of all these things, and they feel that something deep within inside, like they're being led, but they're not really quite sure what to do with it. What could you leave them with that would maybe open that door a little wider for them to walk through?
I love that. Because I think that we all have access to the outside.
Mhm.
Um, let's just say that we do somewhere, whether you're in a city or you have access to trails in nature, you turn that phone off and take a walk with the intention of noticing the
Mhm.
things that are around you, right? Tuning into the different sounds of the birds and letting the breeze move through your body and leave its messages within you, not trying to figure out what it is that's being said, just knowing that you're being spoken to and touched by
Yeah.
something you can't see. Um, feeling your feet on the earth and what that feels like, noticing
Mhm.
that, looking up at the sky and noticing the clouds or the sun,
Yeah.
the leaves on the trees. I think noticing
Mhm.
um, elevates any moment in time and
Mhm.
connect with the now. And that's where we should strive to be as much as possible
Mhm.
because nothing else exists,
Right.
right? So nature helps us to do that
Yeah.
and effortlessly. And
Yeah.
all we have to do is go stand outside and look up, you know. So
Beautiful. Beautiful. I agree so very much. And I know when I need to disconnect from all the things, the to-dos, and I'm reminded to be, because we are doers. We're out there doing all the things and busy. And so being able to be reminded to be, like you said, standing and just looking up, feeling all the feels, it's a very sensory experience to be in nature, and allowing ourselves the gift of that experience and seeing where it takes us on that journey. So um, I'm just so grateful to have had you in my space today and to connect. And I could see a million more conversations coming from all these things, all the things that you shared today. But I'm just so grateful for you. And I will leave all of the information in the notes, your website, the link to your book, and all great things, your socials for people if they want to learn more about you, see where you're at, what you're doing. Maybe they've got questions that maybe we didn't answer today, but they're curious now and they want more of Pamela. Um,
I do want to leave you with one other thing, if I
yes,
might. So there's an app called Insight Timer. It's
yes.
free. Tell
Okay.
everybody about it because, and I'm on it.
Oh,
And so if you don't have access to nature, I have meditations where you can become the owl or the horse or the dolphin or the coyote, and you will go to meet that animal. You'll lock eyes with it. You'll become mesmerized. You'll
mm,
take all of the characteristics of that animal and then travel as that animal.
wow,
And then you'll receive all the gifts and teachings that they have for you. You'll
mm,
return, you'll thank them, you'll separate and carry on with those gifts for all time. And
oh,
so that is available as well, and it's free
oh,
and
gorgeous.
a way to really deeply connect with nature.
Beautiful. I love Insight Timer, and I don't always dive into it. You've just reminded me to dive into it more. So yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for that. And what a journey. I look forward to those journeys that I'm going to allow myself to go on with you in that way as well. So,
Good.
oh, thank you so much for being
Thank
here.
you.
And oh, I'm just so excited to continue to learn more on this journey.
Likewise. Thank you so much. I loved this. It was fun.
Thank you so much for joining us today in our beautiful conversation with the wonderful Pamela Robins. It was great having you here and joining us. Please help get this podcast out. Click subscribe and give us a rating and share it away to those you think might resonate with what we've got to share here on this platform. All of the socials and connections are in the show notes. Please see that to find out more about the work that Pamela is doing in beautiful California, in nature with animals, and to find her meditations and the book that she has. Also to connect with me. There's also the links to all of my websites and socials as well. I have a beautiful retreat coming up April 26th to the 29th at Half Moon Bay in British Columbia, Canada. Spots are going quickly, and we would love to have you join this wonderful rejuvenation wellness retreat. I look forward to connecting with all of you, and I can't wait for more wonderful, beautiful guests to come on this podcast and to share the magic in the world. Have a wonderful, amazing day. Much love to all of you.